Good morning, it's Terrie from TLC Dog Grooming, and thanks for joining me. And you know, it's really nice when the people coming in and people when they call to make their appointments and they're saying, I'm watching your live stream and I really enjoy it, and thanks for the information. So it's nice to know that people are actually watching and that they enjoy it and they like to hear what I have to say and what I have to share. So thanks for that. Thanks for watching. And if you're watching the replay, and I'm sure there will be more replay watches because it's almost 10 after 8 in the morning, but I want to get this out because I've had this on my docket of things to get taken care of for over a week, and I just haven't set the time aside to do it. So, and that is about what happens when we bath the dog and don't brush it and comb it out. And I feel bad for people because typically, well, not typically, always, when they come in, they have no idea what they've got underneath the top, right? It's usually on a white dog, and it's usually on a small white dog. And they're bathing it all the time because it's white, right? Because it goes out, it gets dirty like that, right? They're dragging in the dirt. They don't want to see the black paws. They don't want to see the dirty undercarriage and the dirty face, so they're washing all the time, which is fine. I don't have any issue with that. I encourage people to wash their dogs. In fact, bath their dogs more, right? There's nothing wrong with bathing your dog weekly as long as you're using a really good shampoo and a dog shampoo. So you're not going to use Pert Plus, or you're not going to use Palmolive. Okay, you're not going to use Pantene. You're not going to use the human stuff. You're going to go to the pet store. You're going to go to Ren's up the road, and you're going to buy something that's doggy appropriate for frequent bathing. So a hypoallergenic shampoo would be a really good thing. Anyway, that aside, what happens is that people will put the dog in the kitchen sink, put him in the laundry tub, take this. A lot of people have a shower with their dog. A lot of people will do that. And they get them all clean. And thanks for joining me. I don't know who's with me, but thanks for hanging out. Put a comment in if you can, and let me know who's here. Then they don't brush them out, right? They don't comb them out. And I don't really think it matters that much whether you do it when their dog's wet or when you do it when the dog's dry. So if you wanted to bath your dog and give them the towel dry and then let them run around and let them dry and take a bit of a break from it, and then get them up on your grooming table, the area that you've designated as your area, and get that brush going on them. Because here's what happens. I saved this from a dog from last week, and the son brought the mom's dog in, and I felt bad because he had no idea, and I guarantee the mom had no idea what was underneath that top coat. And so he puts the dog on my counter, and I can tell. I don't even need to touch the dog that it's going to have to be shaved. And he said to me, just take like about 1/4 of an inch off. And this is the other thing, is that people that usually do this have a longer dog. Like the hair is longer on the dog because they like that style, and they have absolutely no idea that they're not caring for it properly. This is not to shame people, it's to help people so that they don't do it. Because in my 22 years of being in dog grooming, I have had people that take it really well and go, oh, you're kidding, I had no idea, to the other extreme where people think that I'm completely insane, and they want to get into an argument with me, and they can get very rude, and they can get very belligerent and very mean and nasty, which never works out very well. However, so here's this poor guy. He brings his mom's dog in. I hope that so here, between bifocals, bad lighting, and there we go. Okay, so this is the mats, right? Which is the whole piece, okay, on the bottom. See, on the bottom. So this is what's against the skin right here. This is what's on top, this stuff here. So that's not really matted at all. But see, this is, okay? It totally is. And the whole body. The whole body is like this, okay? So if it was maybe just this piece, sorry, we have to work in here, so it's gonna get noisy. So if it was just this piece, you could get your scissors in there and you could split this mat up into several little pieces. You could take your thinning shears, thin it out, brush it with your slicker brush, and then comb it out if it was just that piece. But when it's the whole body, right, from head all the way down the back, down the sides, down the back side, down the front legs, into the armpits, right? And these situations, it tends to get tighter when you get into the legs, because what they do is they'll put the dog in the sink or the laundry tub and they'll scrub the feet, they'll scrub the legs, and they'll scrub the bum, right? So that just gets tighter and tighter. And what happens is that if you've got a mat, this is the mat, it's this big, right, before the bath. You put the dog in the sink, and then you're scrubbing, right? You're working shampoo through the hair. That loose hair that's not matted is now going to catch onto that mat and wind around it, okay? So it'll maybe pick up 50 hairs, 60 hairs, whatever, 100 hairs. And now that becomes part of the mat, okay? And then nobody brushes it and combs it out to get those knots out, because they're not even aware that they're there, okay? And then the next week comes, or in some cases 3 days later, the dog's dirty again. They put the dog back in the sink, right? So now you got this big of a mat, and now those loose hairs that weren't part of the mat cluster are now wrapped around in part of the mat cluster. And before you know it, and it doesn't take very long at all, you've got all this loose hair that is attaching to that original core issue, okay? Before you know it, you got the whole dog. The whole dog's matted. So if you're a customer that only goes into a grooming shop every 3, 4, 5 months, you're gonna have a really bad mess. And a dog's gonna be squeaking clean. You know, I did a Shih Tzu Monday, I think it was. It was crazy. The ears were like pillows, and you know, it's just tight. The dog was squeaking clean, squeaky clean. I could have, if I didn't want to be in integrity, which I would never do, but the dog was so clean, I didn't really even need to bath it after I shaved off the hair, right? It was that clean. I could have just done its nails and sent it on its way. But anyway, it's bathed a lot and it's not brushed out. So that's what happens, how that happens, right? The loose hair that's not brushed and combed out wraps around the original mat, and before you know it, you've got head to toe mat. And why we don't want to do that is because when you do get to the grooming shop and they say to you, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take it short, owners get defensive. They get angry. They think that they're being shamed. They think all kinds of things that aren't happening, because trust me, groomers deal with this every single day, sometimes more than once a day. And they're not shaming you. It's just a matter of fact. There's nothing that can be done. Because if they sit there and brush and comb the dog out, it's just torture. And, you know, we've learned something over the last 40 years that maybe that's not a good thing, to torture people's dogs for the sake of them looking pretty and having long hair, right? You try to educate. So there's that. So when I had this happen, well, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, he took it pretty good, you know, and I feel bad because he's going home to his mom and saying, oh, they're going to shave it. And you know what? It's a white dog, so when you have to shave it this close, it's going to come out pink. You're going to get the pink pig. And there's nothing that can be done about it. When I'm doing this, I'm holding the dog's skin with my thumb and slowly, carefully shaving it off. Okay, you have to hold the skin tight, because when this is hanging off of a dog's skin for a long time, right? Because usually this is how it goes. It's in a repeating cycle of constant state of matting. The skin gets really thin and it gets weighted down and it gets heavy. So the groomer has to hold the skin tight to keep it taut so that they can get their clipper blade in between the skin and the mats. It's serious business. And that's how people's dogs get nicked and cut, because the dog is not comfortable with that. It is very uncomfortable for them. And if they pull and they start to move around and leap and do whatever, I mean, accidents happen, right? So there's that. The other part that bothers me about it is that the skin's not breathing, right? Because you've got this stuff, you've got this sweater, right? This wool sweater on the dog, and there's no light getting to that area because the mats are so thick, right? No light can penetrate through, okay? And what happens when you've got moist, dark places? I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it another 10 million times before the day I die. When you've got dark and you've got moist, you got caca, right? You got ooze at caca, right? You got bacteria, you've got fungus, you're asking for trouble. So we want light, we want air, we want skin to be able to breathe. And the way that you do that is by keeping them clean, keeping them dry, keeping them, hi Debbie, great to see ya. Mwah. Keeping them clean, keeping them dry, keeping them brushed and combed through, okay? We want the skin to be able to breathe. And when you've got this, right, this is what's against your skin, okay? Skin's not breathing at all, okay? So there's that piece. What else did I want to say? Well, I guess I talked about it all. The mat's double. I got to look at my notes, because if I don't look at my notes, I'll go all over the place. So the mat's double in size, triple in size, and just get bigger and bigger. I talked about that. I talked about the skin can't breathe. And I talked about the owner having to shave a pelt, and the groomer, sorry, having to shave a pelt, and that's not fun. People don't want to get back the pink pig. Groomers don't want to give you the pink pig. They don't. They want your dog to be drop dead sexy all the time, right? They want him to looking good when he goes out for his walks. Yeah, so that ends that. If you've got any questions about this, about anything really, it doesn't matter, but this specific topic. So there you go. Isn't that nice all on the top? And everybody's petting that all the time. They have no clue that this is what's against the skin, okay? All over the whole body, okay? So I wanted to get that off the list, because I've done 2 dogs like this in the last week, which is a lot for me, because typically I refuse this kind of stuff at the gate. I do, and that gets people upset too, okay? And the reason why I will refuse a job like this at the gate is because there's a 90% chance that owner is going to end up back at the vet, okay? And this is another reason why it's so darn sticky, this stuff, right? When I was younger and in my 20s and in my 30s, I was always wanting to help people, and I was always wanting to be the big hero and you know, get this hair off and help these people with their dogs and educate them. And I'd stand here and talk for hours and days ad nauseum to try and help people. And nothing ever really changed with it. They were either going to be that kind of a client that they showed up every 6 months, maybe, and that was it. That they weren't going to change that. So okay, that's that market, and that I didn't like that market. It was too much work and too much energy, just soul sucking, doing that work. But then there's this other piece of the market that they have no idea that this is what they're creating. But so I want to work with those people to help them out. And these people were already existing clients. But when I get somebody in here that's brand new, that doesn't have a relationship with me, doesn't have a relationship with their groomer, like they're just somebody driving by and they stop in, hey, can you do my dog? And it's a totem matted pelt, I won't do it, right? Because that's that dog's experience all the time. Every time he gets on a groomer's table, this is the condition that he's in. And what happens is that the dog, since that's always been his experience his entire life, where he's being pulled, and because it's not comfortable having this done, okay? It is not. So he starts to get defensive, and then it's on, right? It's on. So it depends on what that dog's experiences have been in the 50 grooming shops that he's been in the 12 years that he's been on the planet, as to how he wants to bring it forward. And I just don't bother with it. I'm too old and beat up, and save that stuff for the younger groomers. It's not my market. So if they come in like that and there's a new customer, I will refuse them, and they're always going to end up at the vet at some point, because if that matting is like this and it's in the groin area, which it usually is, you're going to expose the skin. So the dog's not been able to lick his groin in a lot of cases. Let's face it, dogs like to lick their groins. They like to lick their crotches. And when it's full of mats, there's a barrier between the tongue and the skin. So when the groomer takes it off, the dog's like, oh, right? I can lick my crotch. Oh, I'm gonna lick it some more. I haven't been able to lick it since, last year. And they lick it and lick it and lick it and lick it. And it takes about, 8 to 10 minutes for a dog to give himself a problem in his groin. And then the owner doesn't do anything about it for 24 hours or 48 hours, maybe because they didn't notice or whatever. The next thing you know, now there's a huge problem and there's an infection and their dog's on antibiotics, and now they're blaming the groomer. It's all the groomer's fault. She must have cut him. No, she didn't cut him. It's just the dog hasn't been able to lick his penis for 6 months. Yeah. And so I don't want to get into that fight. I don't want to get into that argument, because it usually will happen, and it's just not a nice place, and I don't like to run my business in that, where somebody's calling me and saying, you did this to your dog, and then I have to enlighten people, and then they get snarky with me, and it's not good to be snarky with me. Anyway, customer's coming. Well, hello there.
Hi.
I'll be 2 seconds. Time to go. I gotta do my next thing. It's my 8:30s here, so if you've got any questions about what we were talking about earlier, by all means, put them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Got any questions about anything else, let me know. Okay, gotta go. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks.